Welcome to lesson 58, Radio H Radio 223 part-timers. And we are continuing with our conversation and our lessons with promotions or dealing with promotions and queue builders, right? Executions and strategies. You can go check the references in your textbook, Valerie Giller's Beyond Powerful Radio. And that's on chapter 29, The Sound of the Story, page 343 to 372. Okay, so last lesson we obviously discussed a little bit of an introduction to understanding radio promotions, the importance of why we have them, to please, or to I say to basically reward our listeners. And I did chat to you about the whole concept of, well, does it increase listenership in terms of bringing other listeners from other stations, and how that is not true, but rather we focus on, increasing our own demographic and the type of people that are fit our SEM and so on, the lifestyle that our station promotes and our station caters to by, cultivating this culture, that we add to our promotions, or that our promotions add to our station itself. Okay. All right, so let's look at the first slide here. Promotion is anything that puts the word out about your station, but promotions get people talking about and listening to your product. Well, how do they do that? The bigger and the better the promotion. Um, and not all promotions can be that big. We do like promotions regardless of whether they can give, a listener a $200 voucher to go eat at KFC, or to spend at, like a sorbet or whatever it may be. Or it is it's a large competition. Again, we mentioned before, like winning a car, winning a house, winning an experience that is kind of unforgettable, that is in line with our marketing strategy, our digital space and what's happening in there. Maybe a meet and greet even with a celebrity that's, one of one of the listeners, or the listeners, our current listeners, our larger demographic, are very, very fond of, right? Promotions, events such as publicity stunts and outside advertising on billboards or TV, as the actual promo is a spot or segment that you run on your station that supports your own programming. So again, just to kind of differentiate, even though it is kind of there black and white, there is the physicality of what we might find outside on OH, right? Whereas we also have the variant difference, excuse me, right, of promos that we do pre-produce or whatever it is, and we have that entire, like I said, that line of processing that goes through different departments and lands up on air that we can share with our listener. Right, radio promos have two goals: one, to draw in new listeners, and two, to get current listeners to tune in more often and for longer. So there was that example of, hearing that sound, the station sound, which is a very common promotion that can be in between songs. It's sporadically placed throughout our programming throughout the day. When people hear the sound, they must phone immediately, or they must text or WhatsApp or whatever it may be, whatever the entry mechanism is. And then we call a person back. We select them at random. Like I said, it must be fair. And we go and say, okay, listen, yeah, well, tell me what the sound is. We give them a couple of clues. They get take a guess. Maybe they want a bunch of cash. Maybe they don't. And if they don't, there's a rollover amount. And I'm sure, again, you've heard this before, where it increases 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, whatever it may be. So obviously someone actually wins, right? So we want to increase that time spent listening. It's really important that we do that. Once we have that, just alternative, our ulterior motive as a business is, more access, and more access, should I say, to the rest of the station's segments, right? Both obviously in terms of programming, but marketing, more exposure to other spots and advertising that does happen. Also, the formatics in terms of what they might actually like. They might like features. They might stay longer. They might become more loyal. Might convert a P2 to a P1 listener. Right. So obviously there's much validated reasoning as to why we want listeners to stay tuned in for as long as they can, right? They also will trust the station and might give them a chance, let's say, in the evenings or like in the early mornings or maybe on the weekends or on a Friday night, right? Because they already trust the product and they are quite fond of it, right? When budgets get tight, the first thing to be cut in the marketing budget or is the marketing budget? Well, of course, the current trend in marketing and promotions of broadcasting and its properties is to get results with a whole bunch of less effort, money, resources, and so on. So, that's just, I mean, you've got to think about a community station and how creative they've got to get because they don't really draw in as obviously as as big of an amount in terms of sponsors, monetary values and stuff like that. And when they are exchanging kind of barters or whatever it may be, it's more likely that they have to be more creative about the way that they can continually run marketing strategies and projects and promos, etc. Right? To be able to still reward those listeners, still be active as a station that does have a number of promotional events, but doesn't spend as much money. Okay, so let's look at concepts of radio station promotions and contesting. All right. So because of financial situations, stations, the current trend in marketing and promotion of broadcast properties is to get results with less, like we just mentioned in the previous slide. What do we do, just before we get to the points? You mustn't have that attitude of hitting a roadblock and saying, well, okay, we don't have the money, and so we can't actually do quote unquote anything. When you think of yourself on air as a presenter, something that we do teach, and you've probably heard this from either your first year lecturer or myself at some point in this year. If you are put, let's say, on an overnight show or a weekend, which is predominantly quite a basic show, there's not a lot of opportunity. It might be a mandate, directive from your programming manager to say to you, listen, like you can't actually do interviews, you can't actually do, I don't know, controversial content, you can't speak about current affairs, that type of stuff. You got to just play the music and you got to keep people happy. A lot of jocks in the past have seen this as like it's crippled them, quote unquote, and saying, "Oh well, I can't be a better presenter because I don't have competitions and I don't have promos, because then I can't make listeners, quote unquote, happy." And that's not true, right? If you can do, you're supposed to be able to do the very best as a presenter without any bells and whistles, right? So you would go on and do a show that has no extra added value, like for example a promotion or a competition, right? And you would find in like very intricate, creative ways, right, to make sure that your show pops and that you stand out, right? In the same way here, when you are busy with trying to come up with something cool and great for a listener to enjoy as a reward, there are many ways that we can use our creativity, approach something from a new angle, spend a lot less money, and sometimes close to nothing, to be able to reward them and to create promotions that are really fun. Again, rewarding. Once again, you're going to use some very common terminology over and over again, so it can get kind of stuck in your head as well. There's not a lot of variance as well in terms of the terminology around marketing and promotions within the radio space, within this particular context. I'm saying in your H Radio 223. So we can use the terminology and know that, listen, yeah, okay, what is it that I just genuinely at the end of the day want to actually do, right? Experiences are something that, because we've got, for example, resources like people that we've interviewed before, we've developed great relationships with certain organizations, NGOs, whatever it is that will lend us, the way that we have helped them before. We can ask for a bit of a favor. I'm speaking, let's say, I've developed a good relationship maybe with a feature, with certain doctors or certain professionals, and I can ask them, listen, can I please give away, let's say, an internship or a a shadowing a shadowing experience for some of my students or some of my listeners that can come over. It's not going to be that much work for you in terms of, well, you're giving more back to the community, and I've given you a lot of like free airtime in a way. So we kind of scratch each other's backs. And the person will say, yeah, sure, that sounds great, because we've developed that kind of relationship. So we can go and run this entire thing. We can definitely reward our listeners, and that didn't cost us, quote unquote, anything. It's just a simple example. Obviously, the main aim is to make money at the end of the day. That's why you do want to obviously partner up with a specific brand or a service or a person, even, right? Okay, personal, professional, right? Listeners must be aware of the station to listen to it, right? Radio stations use contests and integrated campaigns. For example, like I say, integrated campaigns across different mediums and different ways that we can even integrate across the station, right? To get the word out about the product, we can also obviously use our below the line marketing. So things like just handing out pamphlets, even. I know that sounds so old school, but I think of the last time you saw someone handing out a pamphlet at a robot. Well, normally it's with car services or with buying, let's say, houses or house rental, whatever it may be, or even plumbing or whatever it may be, right? Below the line marketing is super cheap and it's super effective because you print out, let's say, 5,000 flyers, and you will get, let's say, 500 or even 50 people that answer back, and will bring about more return on investment, right? And more money you'll make. Definitely you'll be what can I say, profitable, right? Because the cost of those flyers wasn't that expensive in comparison to the services that you render, and obviously what you will charge for them, right? I'm going on various different sidebars here, right? But I'll come back to this right now. Contesting is about fantasy, and listeners love to play. It's making fun, a fun space for them to just compete and have a winning moment. There's nothing also, there's nothing, I say always nothing better. There's always things that are better. But anyway, one of the greatest things in radio is when you have a really massive, like a massive prize, and the you hear the listener lose control, which is great. You want that. It's called a magic moment on air, and creating those magic moments take a lot of time and preparation, right? That we put in, and premeditated thought from us as both DJs, but also the departments that are more so in our business sections or departments within the station itself, right? That come up with, again, the strategy to make this work, and obviously give us that fly moment, right? Okay, creativity and passion are key elements to powerful radio promotions at the station with a limited budget, right? As I've explained before. So, joint stations, airwaves, and websites are powerful promotional tools that have already been paid for, right? So you can use them effectively if you understand, one, obviously both platforms, right? Obviously the on-air platform, but also understanding that, using, let's say, a landing page and where everything is, there's dynamic content where we include our socials in there. We obviously always kind of drive traffic towards our website. We can obviously also acquire revenue from there in many different ways. Don't want to go on too much about it because we will cover that as well. Okay. All right. So branding your station, as with branding of a consumer product, is keeping a promise at the end of the day. So we will brand our station. We have a mission, a vision statement. We have a certain look. We have certain taglines that we will filter that in to various, aspects of our on-air product. When we go on air, we'll make sure that we kind of pound that in through various methods. Listeners like to know what to expect when they're tuned in. So, very clear brand that, again, is very clear about what they offer. Will put a listener at ease when we see, when we see brand imaging or a brand change its, I say, its marketing. for a station, the listeners get a little bit uneasy because they think, well, the station's going to change right now. And not necessarily that it's going to change, but it's being updated, right? So we're going to use obviously the core of what the station is about according to the license, also the semantics of that, but then also, what makes our what has made our station so great before we're going to now obviously cultivate that a little bit further, a little bit longer, a little bit harder, and a little bit more richer. Right. Okay. But the station logo, at the end of the day, the brand image, right, must be a visual representation of the station. And just to kind of like throw back to when you were at high school, you learned about the power of colors and design. When we do advertising and marketing, and so those colors and the design are carefully selected. Sometimes doesn't really land. Sometimes, yeah, the actual logo doesn't really land with people that don't quite like it. It's not that the station will immediately change it. It's already gone through a really painstaking process of focus groups, etc. And again, they kind of stick to it. It's a little bit jarring for a listener, and whether they like it or not, they're going to accept it if the station is still good. Okay, if the station and the product is good, but it is a very careful process, and it is a big risk when you do change our station logo, the image, right, the face of the station. Right, permanence is building a habit of listening to you in your audience. Don't underestimate the attraction for many listeners in hearing their name on the radio. It's we want to be able to acknowledge them when we are doing voice notes. We want to acknowledge them when they are winners. We want to kind of push that reaction. Send us a little bit of a video while you're enjoying this prize, or while you're out there on, like, again, you're in Malibu, whatever it is, according to Miley Cyrus. Right. You can, like, we want to be able to make sure that they keep mentioning the station name, and we are also, and like, obviously, we are acknowledging them to make them kind of like little superstars in their own, like, 5 minutes of fame, right? So that kind of loyalty is then obviously it's reinstated, it's reaffirmed, and we make it stronger. Money isn't always necessary for a successful promotion. Like I mentioned before, it could be a valuable experience, like for the students who do struggle in our third, obviously in the third year to get, it's not just a snap easy, process of getting that experiential learning, getting that shadowing, getting whatever it is into a certain business, whatever it may be. So why not the station actually help them in, an award, let's say 5 to 10 to 15, maybe students, different experiences, at least to get the experiential learning done, partner up with a varsity or a campus, whatever it may be. Or even outside, like I say, an NGO that does want to help, let's say students, let's say at schools or whatever it may be, right? Doesn't always have to be money. Money is, however, hashtag the best, right? Planning is everything. Make sure that you use the promotion checklist on page 260 of Next Level Radio. Okay. Television advertising campaigns are affordable by piggybacking on advertisers' promotion budget, and the use of your own station and website to promote your action or activity is definitely coincides. It's nothing more that I really have to actually emphasize there. But creating powerful parody songs also is an option, because it's a lot of creativity, something new, something fresh, definitely something unique, and definitely obviously ties in. You can tie that into, let's say, a promotion, having a little bit of fun. The DJ obviously, gets to showcase their particular creativity. We work together on something cool. We can put that on Spotify. We can put it on iTunes, and we can maybe create a little bit of a buzz around that as well. I'm just gonna quickly. I just want to grab my textbook. Give me a second. Just in case there are any notes from the textbook, I will refer to them as well. All right. Okay, let's look at getting to listeners' minds. So this whole Sapporo shrimp methodology or approach, right, is how we look at the things that are important, almost like when we are kind of constructing a composite listener to understand exactly where our listeners' mindset is at. But we look at this, so this Sappho shrimp method or approach is how to understand which aspects of a radio listener's life are, currently, I'm saying it's giving them kind of like stimulation, right? And we can obviously monopolize on these various aspects, right? And we can use them either in content, or we can use them again, like I say, within the context of, let's stay within the promotions and the advertising, etc., right? To be able to again get a real great connection with them, and again make obviously that connection count, right? So different. So what does sapphirism stand for, right? Let's have a look. Sex, achievement, fantasy, outrage, spectacle, humor, rescue, injustice, money, patriotism, scandal. So if we look at some of these, I don't know. Let's me before I go, just give me a second. Yeah, okay. So let's break some of them down, right? So obviously you understand each one of them. It's not words that you haven't or haven't come across before. But let's say we want to look at the aspects of sex. So sex can also be, just right in terms of like gender roles. We can actually then go into obviously the definition of the. I say is it the verb? Yeah, the verb is my English. So the verb of sex. So we can look at I say sexually implied content, so health, and awareness. We can obviously talk about relationships. We can definitely talk about the kind of like up and down between, and the differences of the ebbs and flows between what, obviously the different aspects, some different aspects of sex as well that we can actually talk about. So achievements, so goals, goals like career goals, we can do, winning moments. We can look at achievement within your own, I don't know, hobbies, or your achievement in terms of your own self actualization or self achievement. Fantasy, putting us on experiences. Outrage, kind of like immediately, throwing in something like, our current, again, power crisis, or let's say statements that are made by our political leaders, or things not working within a community. We can go and we can, monopolize, or again capitalize on stuff like that. So bringing back that into, let's say, a promotion, for example, we want to be able to, let's say, maybe you can win a generator, maybe you can win solar panels, or solar energy. Um, all right. Okay. So spectacle, right? So a little bit more out of the ordinary of what is happening in life. Okay. Humor, rescue. Again, that whole thing of a great, like a great happy ending as well. Injustice. Society wants to obviously always strive for the I say the little man, right? So we can again capitalize on making that kind of happen, right? Money, patriotism, and then obviously scandal. Any one of these aspects of the Sappho shrimp, I say methodology, or like I say, kind of breakdown here, we can use again for content creation are through promotions, right? Okay, and then the obviously combination of them too. That doesn't that's without saying, goes without saying. Right, keep your promise, right? So as a brand, Doug Harris is as an expert on branding radio stations, mentioned that branding is often spoken of in hushed tones, as it is where a mystical, or as if it were, should I say, so if it were a mystical phenomenon, right? Why is that? In the world of broadcasting, a brand is a promise. Okay, so every time a listener encounters a radio brand, that station's promise must be fulfilled, right? Okay, and if a listener is lured by this safe and fun for the whole family promise, but then turns around, tunes in, and hears a dirty joke, kind of like more explicit content, then what is it? What are we saying to our listeners? We promised you something that's family friendly. You got your family, let's say, go to the physical, literal sense there. You got your kids there, and now you start trying to be a little bit controversial, and it's not suited, and so you break that kind of promise. You break that kind of that connection, and they won't trust you again. Now, also, will obviously complain, and that goes without saying, right? Doug Harris continues by saying that identifying the emotional needs of your target market, as we do with our market research, right, is where your entire core for the process of it going forward in any type of promotion, etc., right, is where you start, right? Um, he says, you give me a sign, give your, give give yourself or give the station like and the station strategy an indication of like, do you understand? I mean, do you understand the core understanding of your audience, right? And one would also just take it literally and give me a sign, yeah, develop something that obviously is appealing to the eye again in terms of like a logo, etc. For whatever it may be, not just for the station, but also again, maybe you want to do social media posts constantly about maybe the questions that you're going to ask on the station, right? But the branding's got to be across the board and across different shows the same. So they'll use, let's say, a template, whatever it may be. Again, we can take it the literal image, right? So product performance and promotion, promote the station's image as well as its product, right? Build passion, emotion, and listener loyalty. Involve your listener. Ensure that people who are not participating will still enjoy hearing the contest, right? That's really important. So, you've got a little bit of a featurette, right? That is linked to a sponsorship and that everyone can't win. In fact, only one person can actually win, quote unquote, in that particular situation. But the entire experience has got to be still enjoyable radio at the end of the day. So when you develop, let's say, a competition, you want to put it out there, make sure that it was fun or that it was at least something that wasn't a reason for them to tune out. Okay. So that the other listeners that are busy listening to a winning moment can say, okay, cool, that was great, that was worth my time, and people like hearing other people be happy. It makes them happy as well. Okay, promoting the news, so we can obviously use that angle, right? Right, that angle of being able to use the news as a good jump starter and a scoop for a scoop, right? Okay, so in other words, let's put something new and share a new angle kind of scoop the competition as well, right? To be able to also scoop up on their audience let's say it's a competitive station or competing station, right? Okay, right. So the pros and cons of contests. Well, the designated caller contests are, and when they say in this day and age, obviously people are concerned, let's say, about listening to action, even though I think it's genuinely not a problem if you have a good enough prize. If people want to like they want to win, they will call in, right? So designated caller contest, when we are also looking for a particular somebody, Um, and let's say I want to phone somebody, and the whole mechanism is dependent on that. So let's say you've now WhatsApped your name as an entry mechanism, or you've sent through your name on a text lines or whatever it may be, right? And now I have got to go to pick a particular call they don't pick up, right? And maybe it's one of those things where I've got to surprise them on air, because they're gonna have magic like a keyword they've got to say, phone, 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 or they don't pick up. We've heard a lot of DJs also say, oh, well, they leave a message, try to kind of like save grace for the person. Oh, this is wherever it is, for shortened from whatever it is, and I'm leaving you a message. Sorry, you could have won $10,000, but I'm going to go on to the next person, right? And the thing is that when we do develop the mechanisms, we've got to think about situations like that, and then obviously have our fail safes, right? Anyway, trivia contests can be kind of boring as well because, again, also there's a risk that people will just Google it. They'll have some friend of theirs that will quickly find them an answer. If let's say it's not time limited, right? Okay, email, fax, or snail mail contests are also a big problem, right? Because a lot of people are not going to go through the effort, definitely not using a fax, definitely not using snail mail, maybe email still. And then performance-based contests are also a bit of a challenge, right? So you have to do a certain amount of things, right, to be able to qualify for the next round, or you have to, let's say, get 3 out of 5 to win. And so again, also does have the risk of the person actually not winning on air, which is what we do want as a station. We want them to win. We need that. We have that money. We have that prize. We want to give it away, right? Okay. So when we do develop the mechanism, like I say, for the promotion of the competition, trying to make it as easy but as fun as possible, right? So we do have winning moments. Can you buy an audience? Well, a powerful promotion can initially bring large numbers of new listeners into the tent unless you build a connection with them. Give them the reason to stay beyond the prize, right? Okay. they're going to just go away. You can't truly buy an audience, which is exactly what I've been saying since the beginning of promotions, the last lesson, right? Okay, tips. Some quick tips as we come to a bit of the halfway mark of the lesson, right? Ask less is truly more. So again, easier, simple to understand, know exactly how to enter, know exactly what I need to do to win, what is expected of me, you know. Uh, is it something that they're going to remember? Are they going to remember the way that you executed it well enough for many different reasons so that I can also enter the next time, so that I also remember the winning moment that makes a difference to my day, a little bit of a boost. When designing a promotion, always ask yourself how it can be made bigger and better, right? Okay, without a lot of clutter. Don't outsmart yourself. So don't like back yourself up into a corner with, let's say, an activation that kind of goes somewhere and then hits a brick wall, and now you haven't thought it all the way through. Maybe it's a couple of weeks. You've got to obviously see where you can peak or spike the competition, and don't forget that competition is going to also get boring. Listen to it the whole day. Let's say we got a big promotion, we've got lots of money coming in, lots of prizes to give away, but also it can get really tedious listening to people win for 3 4 weeks without you actually pivoting with a spike and actually adding in like triple the amount of money all of a Sunday to make it more interesting. Or we're going to pick the first person that's going to WhatsApp or voice note or whatever it may be, as opposed to maybe the 50th or the 60th or the random one, right? We've got to be able to make sure that it is simple, it's easy, it's understood, but you don't confuse people when you do pivot. It's the details that do count because it obviously allows the listener to understand what is happening and how to do it. Remember the payoff, right? So what do they get out of it? Not only just the money that they win, but also the experience of interacting with you as a station and as a friend, right? Remember to get paid, so make sure that when you do the promotion contest and the activation, again the rollout of it, that you do every single thing that is required of you. Otherwise, the client's going to be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay you for something that we agreed upon, but you only did three-quarters of or 9/10 of, right? The promo is better than the bit. Okay. So in other words, the whole is what bigger than the sum of its parts, right? The entire how everything is put together is much larger than every single element that makes it up, right? And remember that because you want to add value here, and it's all about being a cohesive unit as a station that'll give that listener that bigger than life, a larger than life experience, right? When they are interacting with you, they're not just chatting to you, they're not just entering a competition, they're not just winning, but they're having an experience. All promotions are equal, it's big or small. Don't get more excited about the house than you do with the 200 bucks it's giving away. Approaching television, right? So think how you would break through thousands of emails that you would receive, right? You would have to have some kind of you would have some kind of like admin strategy. Like in other words, you would have to look at through a bunch of emails. And you can't look through thousands. You can't sit the whole day, and you'd have to maybe do like before someone sends you like an automated mail, you would have a filtering process maybe somewhere online. That maybe you could again also do it through a form that you could then through mails we can easily convert that to stats, right? We can filter those stats and try to get stuff that is more, maybe more based on an age or a gender or whatever it is. So easier to look at, let's say, a much more filtered finalists group, right? Than every single mail that we do receive or any type of communication, right? Don't get frustrated if you call a TV news desk and they are brisk, all right? Get a feel for what plays on the station that you are pitching to. Call once. Pitch things that dovetail with the day's news. Keep TV posted regularly. Know the station's deadlines. start your events on time, plaster your call letters everywhere. No pictures, be TV friendly, and if your radio station is co-owned with a TV station, work to strengthen that partnership, right? So again, this whole thing about being able to partner up with a TV station or want to maybe we want to try and get some kind of free advertising as well, by again like allowing the television station that we are also aiming toward to, let's say, being featured on, because this is, like I say, an outrageous or a spectacle, or this, like we've made kind of the news, right? We want to obviously be able to push different avenues of and follow these quick guidelines, right? Don't want to focus on them too much because I don't want you to to focus on the TV aspect, right? So heavily. Let's continue with Doug Harris, who suggests doing a little homework to find out which advertisers in your market spend the most money on television, front end, and outdoor, right? Find a way to then include one of the station personalities or a station logo in the client's advertising, definitely, right? So we want to obviously have that brand awareness. The client might like to use one of your station's personalities as a spokesperson, a brand ambassador, an influencer. Right. Okay. Instead of some kind of anonymous actor, because they're already, when we see someone that we are familiar with, immediately pay them a little bit of attention until they give you a reason not to. This is a way to get exposure for your radio stations, call letters, your logo, your personalities, at no cost to you. Again, that kind of influencer. But the thing is that unless you are under contract to do certain things, which you predominantly are, right, for the station, you can obviously negotiate some kind of pay rate for yourself as well. Okay. Anyway, other resources: a branded website, definitely an online newsletter, definitely something that's not like it's not irritating. Maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks is great. So once every month also is not bad as well. So you obviously cultivate that because people are on the emails all the time. So it's not to say that people they trust the brand, they've looked at your newsletter before, they see that it's interesting, that does have all the links to the socials, it does have links to some new articles in the blog area, or whatever it is. It does have really like some highlighted interviews or podcasts. Like they'll find the newsletter rewarding and obviously valuable. Okay, an interactive phone system as well. These cost-effective examples of other people's media, quote unquote, will enhance and amplify any reason for you to see it. Like I've got a marketing strategy, but I can go and then I can elevate that just a little bit more, as opposed to just being able to do what we need to do on air. Okay. All right, so Doug Harris's action plan for success. Step one: each radio department should prepare a list of goals, needs, and wants, so we know where we're going with that as well. So I'm saying when we know where we're going, we know what to do if we know where we're going, and create an 18-month calendar beginning with the start of the next month. Remember what we said about time, right? And putting time into promotions that are going to, be wherever it is in the near future. You want to be able to plan, you want to be able to obviously brainstorm, you want to be able to then obviously, get the right sponsor and so on and so forth. Something I don't have to repeat because we've said that before. This is what a planner might include or might put on a calendar: the national, regional, or local events and holidays. We always start with the stuff that is standard, right? That we can actually work around. So Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas, New Year's, Heritage Day, that type of stuff. Religious observations that might be important to our particular demographic, right? Again, something like Christmas or um, the various Jewish holidays. I can't think of that, but definitely Muslim and whatever it may be. If we are stations like Lotus that do, do what am I saying? And they provide to a particular also religious sect of the KwaZulu-Natal population. Then obviously religious observations are important to also be able to maybe kind of like springboard off. First, as school, university begins, etc. Days when banks, schools, and public offices might be closed. You can also, again, take advantage of that as well. Or it can also be a good predecessor to know that, let's say, if we want to run something that's school related, but schools are not open, or we can say that school holidays, is a great way to be able to run a new promotion for, we want some kids somewhere, they can come watch movies in the mornings, whatever it may be, or have experiences with their, like I say, their favorite influences. I don't know. There's many things. They can go to do bounce, whatever it is, that thing that's called. I don't. It's called bounce. I'm sure it is. Major sporting events, celebrity birthdays. We can go and feature them again. Maybe again, many different ways. Have them connect with our listener. All right, station events for anniversaries, special station programming, and then rating periods, right? Where we know, for example, let's say we want to be able to lift the cube numbers, etc. on it. Definitely we can cultivate something around that. All right, step three, marketing, programming, and on-air staff should meet to decide which of these calendar dates are most important and which ones can offer us really great opportunities to go and develop something cool marketing wise, promotion wise. We then also have a strategy for certain clients that we can promote, and then it's a more convincing as well. 10 to 1, you're going to get that deal again. Or a good thing where I find is that when you're approaching a client, approach them in advance. When that before they have their own financial calendar as well. They know when they can spend a budget. You also become friendly and acquainted with them so that you know that you are syncing in with when they can spend money, and make sure that you also do the follow-ups and call-ups as a salesperson to make sure that, listen, you like the idea, let's chat about more, got some more of your questions answered, and I've got some options for you here. Calculate the budget for each promotion. Defend and explain your budget by writing a story to go with your proposal. Six, when asked to reduce the budget, marketing manager may wish to show the narratives to other department heads. And then the last step over there, review the progress and spending every single month so that you stay within the budget. You're not allowed predominantly to ask for more because, again, the station's budget is predetermined in the beginning, or like I say, pre the fiscal beginning of the fiscal year, and then it's allocated to different departments. So, when you're going there, again, I say, revenue conscious, money conscious. The most common mistakes in marketing can be avoided by following the two things: plan in advance and put everything in writing, because you will forget, right? And we can also revise and review. All right, use your own airwaves and website to promote. So, want to create anticipation, something's coming up, and people want to get excited, create expectations so they know what they're going to get, pick the highlights, the big moments, and then seize those opportunities when they need to be seized. Don't be lazy, don't wait for the moment to pass, whatever it may be, right? Take the opportunity, be proactive, make sure that you do nail the listeners. I know that sounds a bit sexual, but you understand when they are, when they are in their prime of being, responsive, and when they, obviously can, add to your, like I say, your bottom line. Okay, promo points, news talk radio. Teasers and promos are best when they are short. Cross promote like you mean it. In other words, like you must listen to other shows, you must listen to the station, you must go to the socials, and you mustn't be so egotistical to only be, endorsing your own stuff, what's happening on your own show. Know that you are very vigilant as well in proactive in. Really like being a part of the family as well, and do it yourself. Get your own outside press so you can use your own websites to promote events, cultivate people of influence in the online world. Right. Okay. A lot of tips of the trade. Okay. Last last lesson point or slide: throw out stale bread. So it's a template to use great promos over and over again. Do not give in to that temptation, right? So that we have to give them a seasonal period, right? So let's say you do a really big promotion, like I said, like the Sound of Joburg or the Sound of Pretoria or the Sound of Durban, I don't know, whatever it is. You got to wait like maybe around 2 years before you want to do it again, right? So that you don't also sound like basically dry toast, okay? That you can't come up, or you can't there isn't any diversity in the promotions that you do um, allow your listeners to be part of, right? So there's really big ones like the 10 songs, 10 seconds. Again, there's so many of the really basic ones that are used worldwide. Want to kind of really spread them out. Stay up for it. So if you cut your promos last thing before you leave the situation, there is a danger of sounding tired and enthusiastic as a DJ, like you will also be in trouble. After all, you have just spent 3 hours on air. You want to go home and you are holding your car keys. Try running into the production room prior to today's show. See what you can come up with to promote tomorrow's show, right? And get it right. When you work with pre-recorded elements, make them quote like perfect. You may go look at that additional material over there, and then there are the key elements of what this lesson was all about. All right, hope you learned something. We'll see you in the next lesson.